President of the Senate by December 23rd. And January 6th is a counting of the electoral ballots. This means the U.S. Congress meets in a joint session to count the electoral votes, and January 20th is Inauguration Day, so just like that.
There you have it. Those are the dates that are so important. That's why we're here, and that's why time is, for the most part, not on our side in all of this, but that's the cards that we've been dealt, and that's why these people are in the room right now. That's why Right Side is across this country bringing you these rallies, bringing you support for this president. And this is a very crucial time in our country because, as we all know, the balance of the direction that this country goes is right here. This is a very crucial decision. And then what's even going on in Georgia? They got Senate races there. You've actually got a handful of House races that are still undecided across the country. I think there's 20-something House races across the country that's undecided. So, we're in a time right now, despite what you might see on social media and the mainstream media, the election is not over. And you even saw CNN a couple of days ago had a segment that explained and kind of laid out the path for the president for victory. And in a way, it was almost laying out the case of getting their viewers prepared for what could happen, because this has been ignored for so long. All of this, the legal process has been completely ignored. And so I've said this from day one: if you don't get your viewers up to date to what's really going on, when it all is said and done, Philip, this could be a major shock to the world that is absolutely not watching what's playing out right now.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. There's things that the mainstream media will refuse to cover, and there's a reason why they're refusing to cover it, because they know it's the truth. And it's easier to subvert the truth and not show it at all than to actually have to talk about it and confront it. They seem to have forgotten what journalism is all about. And it's a really sad thing, and that's why I think people are turning to alternative forms of media, just like Right Side Broadcasting Network, to go to, because we are willing to show the things that the mainstream media won't. They have something to hide. We have no agenda. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I think that once the evidence does come out, and perhaps we get these judges in these states to grow a spine and actually to rule on the letter of the law, you'll start to see this get reversed. But until then, you're just going to see coverage here, and you're going to see for people that's in this room here today. If you're just now joining us, welcome. We are live in Lansing, Michigan for once again another public hearing in regards to the 2020 presidential election. Of course, we've heard about nationwide voter and election fraud, and of course we're focused here today on Michigan, and we've got several people gathered here. It looks like this is set to get started off about 10:15. We're about there. This is kind of a fluid situation here, as we've seen most of these Senate discussions be. It's very fluid. We've seen the time length gone from 3 hours in Pennsylvania to much longer in Arizona.
Yesterday it was quite long.
So we'll obviously bring the coverage in here. Plus, we've got a camera crew outside as well. There's, I would probably say now, 150 maybe supporters outside to support the president and support the actions that's going on here today.
Yeah, actually, funny that you're saying about support. So many people have come up, a handful have come up to us and said, thank you for being here today. And I think that's something that's really important. Like you were saying earlier, Brian, we're doing things that nobody else is willing to do. So it's just great that we're here. We're showing these hearings. I think we've been to almost every one that's happened. You were in Gettysburg.
I was in Gettysburg.
Liz and Brick Suit were in Arizona yesterday, and today here we are in Lansing, Michigan, and we will continue to do that. These are very important things that need to be heard by the people. Ultimately, the people elect the president, and this is just important as the election, hearing about the election and the fraud that may have taken place or that did take place, according to the Trump legal team.
And it's amazing that when you see the evidence that's been clearly laid out, anyone with any ounce of common sense can see all of that and go, wait a minute, that does not look right. We've even seen witnesses in the great state of Pennsylvania come forward and say, look, it's not about President Trump, it's not about Joe Biden, it's about the election process in this country, and is it valid? Is it, can people have any trust in the election process. And that's really what this is all about, to make sure that every legal vote is counted, and obviously to uncover any illegal votes that were casted.
Right. Ultimately, it's important for the future of this country. If we set precedent now and have an illegal election with fraud all over the place, that means it will only continue to build in the years to come, and presidential races and congressional races and Senate races, any race, will be forever changed and swayed one way. So I think it'll be very interesting to see. This is very important what's happening, and we're going to continue to bring you live coverage of it.
And I think also it might be interesting to bring up some of these other races that you've seen down ballot. And really over the last 4 to 8 years, it makes you question those outcomes as well, with the Dominion being brought up for that and some other shenanigans that's been going on in the election process. So it really makes you doubt all the previous elections that we've seen. So hopefully the outcome of this will open up a little bit of clarity for the world, and we have a little bit more trust in our election process. Let's take a real quick look. We'll scan the crowd once again, as we have about, I would say 40 to 45 people in this room. We've got various legislators in the state of Michigan up on the panel, and we'll see witnesses taking the stand here that's directly in front of the panel. And if you saw the previous hearings, you're going to see a representative, from the Trump legal team lay out their case and bring up experts and witnesses that will talk about what happened, what they saw.
Oh yeah, and Rudy Giuliani said that in 70% of Wayne County, Detroit, there were phantom voters. There were more votes than registered voters. We're talking 120%, 150%, 200%, and even 300%. And again, keep in mind, this is just one part of the state. This is only one county in one state in the rest of the country. So this is not just an issue for Michigan. This is an issue for the greater nation.
And Lila, what I'm seeing also is people on social media, as they see these articles and these videos that not only we put out, but other people put out as well, the president tweets, I'm seeing people that even voted for Joe Biden. Let's take a listen in.
Senate Committee on Oversight will come to order. Good morning, Madam Clerk. Please call the roll. Here.
Here.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Will members and guests please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members, thank you very much for your attendance today. We have several quick orders of business regarding housekeeping that I'd like us to take care of. First, I'd like to welcome Senator Santana for joining us today. And I know also in the room Representative Julie Alexander's here, and I thought I saw Senator Daley at some point too. We have committee minutes from October 20th and November 7th to adopt. So moved by Vice Chair Lucido. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted. Members, you should have received a letter from the Clerk County Register of, the Kent County Register of Deeds and Clerk, Lisa Lyons, who testified with us before. She sent a letter to us that amends a portion of her testimony, as well as answers a question that was posed to her by Representative Lefebvre during our last hearing. And so I'd like to make sure that that's part of the record, and I'd certainly encourage you to read it. I thought it was very helpful in providing some additional clarifications. So members, today I've prepared for you an agenda that will take up testimony from those who have firsthand experience, firsthand witness knowledge of practices and voting that occurred at TCF Center. Due to the number of individuals who are interested in testifying, I've made it clear, or attempted to make it as clear as possible, that there'll be a time limit of 3 minutes, but that anybody who does not get a chance to testify today or who runs out of time is welcome to submit the remainder of their testimony in writing. Due to concerns about coronavirus, of course, the audience seating is limited. We have overflow rooms accommodated, and my staff and I will be trying to facilitate those who've turned in cards who are up next but aren't yet in the room. I certainly encourage people to submit the testimony in writing if they run out of time, but in order to get as many people through as possible, we have to use the time limit. And just to help maybe expedite a little bit of additional time, I've also made one additional invite today, and that was to former Senator Patrick Colbeck, who I had intended to invite for next week's hearing, but had some scheduling issues, and it was more practical for him to come today, and he graciously agreed to do that. And so Patrick will be receiving a bit more significant amount of time due to that. And so next week, the intention is to also have some invited folks to testify, people who've turned in affidavits and other things who have extensive experience and knowledge to share with us in some groups. So we have a rather busy agenda as we continue to look into the situations that surrounded the most recent election. So with that, Senator Colbeck, welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee. I know you had a long flight to get in, so thank you for getting here.
No, thank you very much, Senator McBroom, and thank you, fellow members of the committee and all other interested parties here. This is obviously some interesting times in which we live. I appreciate the opportunity to address this body. I know there's a lot of discussion around what happened in the 2020 election. Hope to provide a lot of information around that today. And keep in mind, what I'm going to be talking about today is just the tip of the iceberg due to time constraints, but a lot of people are here to provide testimony. And even right now I see signs that say, show us the evidence. Please understand there is plenty of evidence. The toughest part on this whole thing is sorting it out and triaging it and identify what is most pertinent to the discussions of the day. And today I'm going to focus in on one particular body of evidence. The rest of the folks can chime in on the rest of them. And as you pointed out, I was present at the Detroit AV Counting Board. I was there as a poll challenger, certified through the Election Integrity Fund, which is an organization I helped start quite a while ago in anticipation for concerns around this upcoming election. And in addition to that, which is pertinent to my testimony today, I'm also a certified Microsoft Small Business Specialist. I work in cabling design for the International Space Station. I worked on with the Department of Defense as a contractor on advanced simulation systems for the military, wargaming systems, so pretty comfortable in the software area. There's been a huge narrative around this whole election that says, number one, it started off saying that there is no voter fraud. Then the narrative changed in the media to there is no widespread voter fraud. Then it changed into there is no widespread voter fraud that could impact the results of the election. Well, what I hope to provide you today is just a snippet of information that indicates no, it was rampant. It doesn't have to be rampant to be significant. If we had voter fraud in just one out of our 83 counties, if that county is Wayne County, you got an issue because over 800,000 votes were cast in that county. And that's much more than the margin of difference we're talking about in the election for the president. So key questions. Now, obviously, I've been in the position where you guys are at right now. So my first thing is I'm trying to figure out what question I should be asking when I'm hearing all this testimony. So if I were in your shoes, I'd be asking, first and foremost, what's the chain of custody for the election artifacts that we're talking about? Has it been broken? Number two, is there evidence of election fraud? Number three, was there evidence that election statutes were violated? And you can have election fraud not violate a statute if we don't have that hole covered in statute right now. Was there evidence of any third party or external manipulation of our election data? And how do you respond? And this is very important, and we'll talk about this at the end. How do you respond if the answer to any of these questions is yes? All right, so key concept, chain of custody. And I simplify this to just 4 key links in that chain of custody. Qualified voter files, number 1. Number 2 is the poll books. Number 3 is the ballots themselves. And number 4, which is where I'm going to focus my testimony today, is on the vote tally itself. How do you communicate the tabulated results upstream to all points, up to the county, up to the media, et cetera? How does that information get packaged and shipped out? And we're going to talk about we've saw as far as concerns here. A lot of people are testifying here today are going to talk about a lot of things that happen specific to the poll books and specific to the ballots. The QVF is not something that happened on the ground here, but that's something that should be of concern as well. But let's focus in on the vote tabulation. So there's all kinds of anomalies that were identified that after the fact in the election when we actually looked at the vote tally results. And I'm not going to go into any of the details on any of this stuff in the interest of time, but as a person who was on the ground at the Detroit AV Counting Board, it's tough for me to go off and see a big picture item. If I can't actually trace the vote tallies coming out of the tabulator, I can't see where there are specific anomalies that are happening. This is something that happens after the fact. I will attest to some things that corroborate nefarious purposes towards the end, or what we did when you look at this data in context of what we did observe. First thing I want to point out is one of the things that when you're looking at data that was transmitted during the election, there was something very interesting that happened. And they were transmitting, we have evidence that from the Dominion voting system